When we want to look at deeper into the rapture, the best place to go is 1 Corinthians chapter 15. It's basically everything you've ever wanted to know about the transformation, not only the resurrection, but the fact that we'll all be changed. We'll all be caught up in this. But some will say, how are the dead raised up, and with what body do they come? Foolish one. What you sow is not made alive unless it dies. What we're going to find as I go through several verses is a death and resurrection principle. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in the twinkling of an eye. He goes on, and I can't go into the whole chapter right now because we've got so many things to talk about. They are full of harpages, robbery. It's one translation. And so forth, and the verse we looked at. But we didn't look at this word in that verse. Philippians 2, 5 and 6, being in the form of God, did not consider it to be harpagmon, robbery. Now, how much sense would it make if we plugged in, let's say, being in the form of God, did not consider it to be caught up? Right? Is that working? No, you can't. These words, they mean a certain thing. And now I want to point out a couple exceptions, and you'll see this in the book. And this is in 2 Corinthians, where Paul is using forms of harpage, and it's been translated by English translators as caught up. Is that actually what he meant? And is the fact that English translators have translated it caught up in other verses from Paul, does that mean that English translators should overwrite the otherwise consistent translation and use it again there as if Paul had meant it that way in the second time? And I suggest not. I'm going to have to hurry along. John Jeffrey Dotson, he's compiled Abbott Smith, Barry Souter, Strong, his concise definition of harpage, the act of plundering, plunder, and spoil. So the future passive indicative of harpazo would be, shall be seized, literally. You could also, in the context, say it might be caught up. But the future passive indicative of harpage is shall be plundered. Now, there's a difference between having something taken from you and being taken altogether, especially if you're the person involved, right? It's a matter of being plundered or being robbed and being snatched and taken away. And that's how different, you see, these words are. We who are left alive and remain shall be plundered, robbed, spoiled. Does that make sense within the context, though? Would it make more sense if we assumed that he meant harpazo? Well, we're going to look at that. Our goods, our natural body, our mortality will be plundered. The purchased possession spoken of by Paul in Ephesians 1:14 will be redeemed. You see, something is being taken from us at that moment. The plundering is not the relocation of the body, it's the redemption of the body. This change will occur before the living survivors, those left remaining, and the resurrected saints are going to be gathered to be with the Lord. According to Jewish tradition, the resurrected saints will be raised the same way, in the same condition, basically, as they died, and then they'll be transformed, they'll be changed, they'll be made perfect in order to participate in the resurrection. And apparently this is the same idea that Paul had. So what's up with caught up? In air. It doesn't say in the atmosphere even. It's not Uranus, it's not heaven, at the first, second, third heaven. All he's telling us here is this is happening above ground. This change we go through is not happening down there where the dead were before the resurrection. It's happening above ground. That's all we know from the Greek. We shall be changed. We shall be robbed of our physical bodies, plundered. You've been bought at a price. what's been bought, it's been purchased. Therefore, glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Three distinct components of the rapture scenario. The resurrection, Paul says, it must precede. It must precede. The dead in Christ will rise first. Before we're changed, they rise. Then the resurrected dead and those left alive at his coming go through the redemption of the body, harpage sametha. It's not being caught up, it's being changed. And then the meeting is the gathering. It's not God's people going to heaven. It's God's people becoming heavenly.